live now. Okay, so I think we're live now. Let me just monitor it on here on the Digest News. Yeah, there we are. So we're live. I think we're live now. Right, okay. So I'm gonna allow a few people. If you can share the video from the Digest News, so we can let people come in. I can only see one person watching us. Is that normal? Doesn't look right.
It will come. People will come on. Don't worry.
They probably will join later.
Right. Okay. So let us start. Let us start. I think people will join. So Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Digest News. I am Haji. As previously mentioned in the poster, I am joined today by Fatou Balde, MBE, founder of the Will Project in the Gambia, and Haruna Baji, who is a social worker and a regional coordinator for social welfare in the West Coast region. And today we're here to talk about child custody. Of course, if you've been following the social media recently, you may have come across or heard about stories of child custody cases where there is a fight between a husband and wife or ex partners with regards to where the children would live. And for us, this session today is more about creating awareness around about the process of child custody in the Gambia, how it all works, and also to look at some of the challenges that women face in terms of going through this process. So we know that there's a lot of misconception around the Sharia law. Where do you go for child custody cases? People are saying that, you know, when a child, especially a boy, reaches the age of 7, the father automatically gets custody. And I think we want to clear the air by using Aruna today to tell us her own expertise and really explain to us really what happens, what does the process take. And we know that a lot of people are actually, a lot of women especially are actually struggling emotionally with this whole process. So really it's more an awareness raising and bringing the issues on the spotlight as we always do it. So without wasting any time, we said we would be here at 2 o'clock and we were a little bit late due to some technical problems. But here we are. I'd like to welcome Haruna and Fatou, and then we'll kick off the discussion. Haruna.
Thank you very much, my sister Fatou, for that brilliant introduction into the program, and equally also welcoming my colleague who is also here to discuss this very important topic. I think this is the first time that I'm joining you in this Digest News program, but I've been following most of your videos online whenever you share them. Interesting, bringing me and then the other colleague to discuss the issue is really timely, taking into consideration the issues that are happening of recent. First of all, the issue of custody from a legal point of view. There are provisions in the Children's Act which from my point, my argument is basically going to be on that basis, because that is the law that I can comfortably speak about, because that's the area I also gain experience on. So I may not be in a position to talk more on issues of Sharia, because I don't have a background when it comes to issues of Sharia. But as far as I know, when it comes to issues of child custody, the Children's Act 2005, which was amended in 2016, categorically state that the court, which is the Children's Court, established by the Children's Act 2005, have the jurisdiction to determine cases of child custody, depending on who brought the matter or who filed the case for custody at the court. For instance, if you have two parties, a mother and a father, who by default probably are no longer married, but divorced, and then the children happens to be on the side of the mother, for example, and then the father want to apply to have custody of those children, yes, he can go to the Department of Social Welfare as the social sector responsible for mediation, because the Children's Act also give the powers to the Department of Social Welfare officers, that is the social workers, to mediate cases of children when it comes to dispute between children and their parents, or between two parties who are in dispute regarding who should have custody of the children. But they don't have the absolute mandate or power to determine as to who among the two parties should have custody of a child. But they serve as an entry point and also a referral point where people can go and get information regarding child custody. From there on, the Department of Social Welfare, social workers handling the case, depending on the circumstance at that particular moment, can advise parties to the case to move the matter or go to the Children's Court and file a case at the Children's Court. Now, the Children's Court also, the Department of Social Welfare also have designated officers who are assigned to attend the court proceedings, whoever the Children's Court is. So whoever the social worker on duty on that very day when the case is filed, certainly have some responsibilities that the court, depending on the situation, the court can decide to assign a particular social worker to conduct a social inquiry or a home study, wherein the social worker will sound the opinion of both parties and then look at the environment around them. And also this, of course, the social worker will put into perspective the attitude and practice of each of the parties to the case with regards to the child care, with regards to the infrastructure that is within them, in order to ensure that should in case a child is in either of these parties, the right and welfare of that particular child will be put into consideration. But again, if a child also is separated from one of the parties, the other party also will be given what we call access rights. So in a situation at the Children's Court, one may not have total absolute custody and deny the other party. If the mother is given custody of the child, probably the court will say, okay, now you will have custody of the child from Monday during the school going days. Then Friday, the father also be given access so that the child will now be in the hands of the father from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In the evening, the child goes back, depending on the distance of the parties to the case.
Right.
Yeah, but there are instances also that the Children's Court also have the powers to withdraw a child from his or her biological parents and give the child to another party. But that has to be in reasonable grounds that the Children's Court is convinced beyond reasonable doubt that the present custodian of that particular child is not in any way acting in accordance with the law or is in another way infringing the rights, of that particular child. Therefore, the Children's Court may feel that the child, if the child is not withdrawn from that particular custodian, his or her life could be in danger.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause you there for a moment. That's a really powerful introduction. My head is already spinning because when I try to get my head around all of this, it's confusing because what you're saying right now is that in the Gambia, they use the Children's Act to rule. Basically, the child custody should be sitting under the Children's Act. Yeah. But what we are seeing or hearing on the ground is that, I think Fatu is smiling. She knows what I'm trying to say, that people are using the Sharia or the customary law in marriages, which is not religious Islamic marriages, using the customary law to rule on child custody cases. I'm going to allow Fatu to come in here. At the moment, what do you make of what Haruna said, and what do you think is happening on the ground?
Okay. Fatu, thank you again for organizing such a well-needed discussion. You and I have spoken about this previously, and I'm going to introduce myself again. My name is Fatu Balde, MBE. I am the founder of Women in Liberation and Leadership. We are a women-led organization that works to support women who experience sexual and gender-based violence. So it's very good to hear from Haruna and for him to share his perspectives. For me, it's good that he's talked about the Children's Act. However, we need to realize that under civil law, men and women have equal rights to take responsibility of the children even after divorce. However, we know that these rights are subjected to personal law. So if for instance, you are divorced and you are a Muslim, even though we have the Children Act and we have the Constitution that is saying that we have equal rights, but then we are now subjected to our personal law, which in many cases, especially around child custody, is referred to the Sharia law. The unfortunate thing is when cases are referred to the Sharia, to the Qadi, most of the cases are not favorable to women. They are discriminatory to women. We need to remember that these are because of other factors. For instance, the people who sit on the Qadi, most of them are men at the Qadi court. And a lot of these decisions, from experience from women that I have come across, a lot of the times the decision that these courts take favors the men instead of the women. So a lot of, despite the fact that we have the Children's Act, we have the Constitution, which clearly states that, but the fact that we now have to refer these issues to your personal law, that is what contradicts the whole thing. There is a big contradiction. Yeah, so I just want to do that.
And I think that's where the confusion is. But when I spoke to Aruna this morning, I think Aruna would come and explain that in a moment. What he said to me was that the Children's Act, there is a children's court basically where these custody cases should be heard, and that the Children's Act supersedes all other sort of laws or courts that are around. So Aruna, can you interject there and tell us, you know, what Fatu is saying, that these cases are then referred to the Qadi courts, which is discriminatory to women. Can you just interject there and tell us what you know?
Thank you very much. Like I said in the beginning, I don't have any much experience regarding the Sharia law operations or the Qadi court operations in the Gambia. But what I do know is that, yes, if a case is brought before the Qadi court, they will use the Sharia as the basis to determine the case, you know, as far as their jurisdiction is concerned. But what is clear in me is that when it comes to issues of children, definitely the Children's Court, which was established by the Children's Act 2005, amended in 2016, have the jurisdiction to determine cases of child custody. And then, you know, if you read the Children's Act, specifically when it comes to issues of children, it is telling you that the Children's Court is the basis for determining issues of children's affairs in the Gambia. So if you have a law that is in contradiction or in conflict with the Children's Act, as far as the provision of the Children's Act is concerned, the Children's Act is the basis. It supersedes. So you will have to use that as the basis of your argument. I don't dispute the fact that yes,
agreeing with
there are.
Are you not agreeing?
What I'm saying, maybe before let me clear this before Fatu come. Yes, like some people don't know the provisions of the Children's Act. They don't even know that the Children's Court even exists. So to them, the only court that they know of is probably the Kadi Court. So if there are cases, go there. But I can tell you that there are numerous cases that are being handled by the Children's Court in which I've witnessed women being given custody of children, because the Children's Court uses the best interest principle to determine. In most cases, you may realize that the mother is even more caring, have all what it takes to take care of the child than the other party who happens to be the father. So you will not determine, you will not say, okay, whether if the child is a male, for example, or a boy, the child has to go to the father. The father may not have the capacity to be able to take care of the child. But the mother, on the other hand, have all those, opportunities to take care. So why would you have to say, because she's a mother, she will be discriminated? Like she said in the Children's Act. When I tell you that, the Children's Act said that, for example, if I happen to have a child with another lady, and that child is under my custody, I have every right to take that lady to the Children's Court and ask for child support from that lady. This may sound very strange, but it's in the Children's Act that a father can take the mother of the child to the Children's Court and demand a substantial amount for monthly payment for the upkeep of that particular child. That is there. But in most cases, it's the men who are brought before the Children's Court by their spouse or their ex-wives, and then they claim that the father must have to give the child support. But the law is equal in terms of that provision. It depends on who have custody of the child and what the other party, opportunities are to be able to ensure that they all jointly work together to ensure that the child is given. So let me allow Fatu to also maybe say anything that she thinks is not in line with.
Thank you, Mr. Baji. For me, the point that I want to emphasize is the fact that you were right that we have the Children's Act, which has all these absolutely, my background, I'm not a legal person, so I don't know, but it has all these articles, all these nicely phrased sentences or clauses that are supposed to be in favor of a child or the parent. However, in practice, that is not what is happening on the ground. In most cases, yes, like I said, on the Constitution, which is, it still maintains that anything to do with marriage, divorce, child support or child custody, it all ends up to personal law. So despite the fact that we have this Children's Act, unless that is removed from our constitution, and this is why the draft constitution was so important for women in the Gambia, because with the draft constitution, if that was approved, women have the right, if you're not happy with what the Kadi has Kadi's decision, you could take it to the Supreme Court to challenge it. Whereas we don't have that advantage in the current constitution. Right now, even if you have the Children's Act with all these wonderful things that Haruna is saying, well and good, but in fact that is referred to the Kadi. If a husband is unhappy with the decision of the Children's Court, he could go to the Kadi and say, I am not happy. In fact, Mr. Baji, the Kadi has powers. What the Kadi rules overpowers what the Children's Act is. So even if the Children's Act approves that, I believe that Kadi then gives the right for the husband or the ex-husband to take over. That is what happens. Yes.
So, let me interject there, because that's two different things you both are saying. So Aruna is saying that when the Kadi rules something, so the Children's Act should supersede the Kadi courts, but you are saying the opposite, that the Kadi courts overrules the ruling. So is that the experience of the women that you work with, or some of the engagements that is that what has been happening on the ground, that they go to the Kadi court?
Yes.
And then, or go to the children's court, and then the Kadi court overrules the children's court? Is that what's happening?
From all the cases that I have encountered, it's the man that has been given the right, even though initially they will go through the our normal laws and courthouses, children's court and whatever. But eventually, if the one of the partners then contacts the Kadi court, they take over. I have had cases, I've seen numerous examples of women losing their children, women who are in good positions to look after their children, both financially, emotionally. Their children are being taken from them because the Kadi follows whatever, like the Islamic law, and also, and I believe a lot of it's more patriarchal than Islamic. Because if we follow Islamic, there are certain rules that comes with, even if they say like in the Gambia, and a lot of the times it is said that if a boy is 7, then the father can take it. And that's the rule that the Kadi uses. And that because even this, they should look at the circumstances of both parents. As we said, we look at the principle of the child's best interest. But in most of these cases, that is overlooked. What they look at is that the man is the father, he's the man. We live in a patriarchal society. The decisions always favors the men. So even though we have the Children's Act, the Kadi overpowers. From my experience, all the women that I have dealt with, all the stories that I have, there hasn't been any community engagement that I have been involved in that a woman hasn't come up crying that she's lost her children because this is what the Kadi has decided. And it's always the Kadi. If the Children Act is there and it's supposed to help women, then that message hasn't been sent across to women. Women are not getting that information that the children court is there to support them get custody of their children. Then we need to do more work in educating at community level so that women know that that option is there.
Yeah, and that is the reason why I brought Aruna, because that was a new information to me, and that is a really powerful one, which would be beneficial to a lot of women if they know about these things. And I think that's why we're doing this conversation. Ngamira ngadia mudamanding na local language or by information on men bedi kanjang akumaya tabakile andunga be jama mol na falale, especially musol meni along ko. Ye wosi da itandi ko ni ikel la football banta kom dimbayani dindingol jama akata ke waleya bayri ngalon ne ko Gambia itol menje wala cases or jamal kata Kadi court sol leto. So instead of ita children's court dindingol la luwa kumonyin to akata Kadi court leto. So ntol memu muslim oldi. So nga mulunta men soto jang wala na prodati Aruna ko nyina tele na nyanta jola kangola fola famo beginning bari bitugo. So nga Aruna la soto jang me alon ka te mu social worker ti enda be do wala welfare la social welfare la tele mu brikama and West Coast region la coordinator te nata Fatou Balde soto atoli Fatou Balde lonne ani musol la do wala Gambia. So laftale doro kachamen be caring right now is ning futu banta kewone muso tema dinni woni nyanta tarla jumale bulo because ngajele signing social media nyinto stories jamal le be finti kan nan kay tandiko no sapo katara kere ne kewone muso tema kesi sol be korso to so lafta ka fahamu role ke mbe mako iro kele no nyaadi le ka information on ya maro fintindi banta pour mol ya kala motay se simfa dal mentano ninyin kusi falketa. So Aruna mbebula la ya explain demanding manika kangola den ngana fatu ya te ya fu moli atebe men foka num surwa kangola pour mbadi ngol fanan meni alon koy man angale moy se fanna fanoje.
Okay, abaraka bake na sister ko ya fonu nyame tonya la bi nanyin kachade alhamdulillah bare comme fatu e fenne fo mi yalon ko lafta ka jabi ba ngambra mi bi nyat mandi
hani sa jabi no den yana muron nan ko te ngabete at
nga jabi ha bare mbadu nga continue ni manika kamola nyimfana mimi wole na Gambia loi bukoto ni ajube loi kilimbije mi ka kumata bake ni nata dingola karola wolem tubabo kam foko Children's Act wolem dingola loi ya dada 2005 sanjo kono ani nata faling sanji nani koma nyinde aketa loi ti mi yalon ka kumata bake and wo loi kilingo fana wole dingola chiti bungo ya long Children's Act Children's Court abe kani dobe brikama dobe base nyimmen court mi yalon ko yewole londi pour ka dindingol la nyanto ka ko mi yalon ko abe dendi dindingol la kola pour ka jube Children's Court ning ay silo soto o ay sembo soto pour ka dindingol la kesi solta fo case fula mi yalon ko among sembo soto pour ka siwo case kan wolem misali fe ni dindingo dabulata kudeta court court wo case sifa Children's Court te case ning handul no la kadu Children's Court santeng is a lower court wolem at magistrate level amantra high court or supreme court mo sort of follow so wala treason cases nyin tano la nata dindingo nyinga involved in issues of treason but comme masa fe fanan ko ni futuo banta dindingo nyanta tarla ababulu o anyanta tarla afabulu amawofo asitrano afabulu asitrano abama bulu asitrano fanan amama bulu asitrano fanan mo kote mi yalon ko ani dindingo famande fenna asitrano fanan mansabulu natra kiskisiro keta inata jipo tonya dindingo badi aman sembo soto amma daji ko soto pour que dindingo nyi muta nyami yalon ko loi laftala nyame misali fe maybe ala miraro nyi maybe tumando bato manchetale ate dindingo nyi mutanola mutanyami yalon ko misali fe dindingo la tanko asa sabatindi dindingo la dumur kendo dindingo la ladula ani dindingo la karango na la jata kendia ni kiskisiro nataje ko dindingo bama de amo sembo soto o misali fe abulo man kobe anu fana mo fana man soto pour mimbe bani fana makola pour ka dindingo nyi muta den man sasa jube dindingo nyi jumale sa mutano mi yalon ko si dindingo la nyanto anala tanko asa sabatindi wonyam fana nata dindingo ba fama bulu abama laftala loi fana ko be jubelal ka jeko tonya ni wulula flow killing ni wulula flow kono wera dindingo ba malembang wala afa ciline be ñunu kono min yalon ko wole daji ko kendo soto anin ay tradula kendo fanan soto anin fanan nafulo babulu mi yalon ko misali fe asi dindingo ñim balundino anu asa karandinole do bije aka nafulo soto le bare daji kendo tabulu so nabe o nyama ite dindingo dila ka fuko ñin kari de abe bunjangole kono nafulo babulu moto babulu ko be babulu bare lu ngolung nabe bun ko na buka sun dindingo le stodi aka nyama dindingo nyala aka dolo min dindingo nyala anu do bije mi alon ko amang kodo soto bare alhamdulillah asi dindingo mutanyami yalon ko loi bare so ake so chati to bango ko mediation social aka soto le wadi dol mol mol nata social welfare case fa sa fuko ko for alquran ti jam pour nga kali nga hani jamban ke court you cannot to oath or Quran Bible ka fuko
I think we're losing me, or we're losing you, Aruna.
Ndoka minke ka wulula fulo le samana yesi.
I think we're.
Can you hear me now?
Akakuntula, I don't know whether it's a move about no demanding bangbari. Apakuntula. Yeah, it's still shaky. It's still shaky.
I think that's the most.
Okay, we'll manage with it.
Okay. Yeah, sorry for that. Gambia network on end. So comme nga fono nyamen drong comme nindi ngobe ababulu loi Gambia loi ma foko nindi kambano lem na sanji waro la soto anyanta bala babula eta what is suffering na children's molle ka fo
bari sila aruna mbatu nge interject je balali sai natara ko sai comme fatu yo men fono angere kan wala comme sila ngalon ko nitata civil law la yalon ko tonya ni dindi mo comme yemen fo ne children's act bu ko nyinto alfa fulol be banning fa itol be equal rights to purka access to purka dindi mo nyinta dindi mo nitol be se tarano nyokan fo wonte ase tarano nyindo kana nyin bulla ase tarano nyimbul bari silambe men je kan Gambia wala nyintu ko kadi court sol na ntellam dina bunda nyin court sol men bije lon nyaadi luwa bungo nyime alon ko itolka dino le tapruka fataro ke moltem itolka sharia court nyin ne tamandi jeto isa jele fanko ni ke woni muso e dingo soto abe doyari like abe susu wala abe doyara mantri soto fo isa foko abula dodon aninga adingo eta ninga tata fosa nyi wora wala mbitan dingo kamala bulle I hear that a lot, even kabrimba doyari. So isa mo ko mbatu mustaka nin kewole na so ta fosta nyi worola mbitaka malabule because wala concept nyenti sila ite ya mra ko muso me alon fa betaka through wala atibe mine keno wala pour ka ba fam bondi wo situation on
okay comme nga fonon commandon nyamen rong saria lode tela londo mang siaje bake ama waraje bake bare min kalamuta wolem yemi foten to nyale mani defon fam dol kana na ofida foko abula na anindi nueta nidi nuota da fasa njita ni ses na sanji woro la soto do batalal kadu kewol wo is everywhere Gambia jam bare min bije min kumata wolem dindi ngola Kenya yeluwale dada mi yalon ko Gambia jam kabirin almost abina sanji mo silal kabiri yo luwan woni bitema wo luwale luwati mi yalon wole nyanta pour ka jube nata lafta ka dinni wala tanko jube la ani ka dinni wala nyanto fana jube la inanta luwale tala ya kala yalon to nyala min kes ni tata kadi court kadi be min tala ka kes ni kundu wala na saria la loi itol be wala tala ka o kundu wala saria loi ya fole je ko nindin kamano e sanji woro la soto anyanta tala fire mawfo
ila londo mawfota wata be breakan
mawsi baranga min kalamuta min pointa ma wolen ko dinnugo asitano fo sanji tan anin nani na londo ma fota woto bara min pointa ma wolen ko in the children's court din kamano fansi trano abama bulu hanabe sanji tan ani lu ngudo fanasi trano afa bulu hanabe sanji tan ani lu.
That's interesting to know.
It depends juma nun kono jumalem sembo soto o ay kendo soto pour que dinno ni muta nyami yalla ko loi sondala bare ngam fana mo kuleti mi yalla ko children's court be kere ne parce que mo jamal bare yalla ne ko children's court be kadi court be kere jama kesol min kata kadi court futu kesol wole kata gi amini wota
jumal le kata gi manje moy bati cases jumal le kata kadi court
futu ban keso
right
yalo futu ban keso mo kata children's court
but yalo futu ban woni dindingol bije say that brings the child custody thing abe carry on la jetol because of near futu ban wasa man dindingol bije ba be rule la nyola sinya kinol to wala kake Fatu nyowal fofu nono aru nambata nye kunti je demanding Fatu yana Fatu su fekkee da dinga muna wasi Olof
Assalamualaikum mbokk yi ñoo déglu man maa ngi tudda Fatou Balde man maa ngi join show bi ngeen baalal ma nag sama olof daf day bari English trop waaye dinaa try tey ñu ngi discuss yi fi child custody comme parents jëkkër a jabar su sëy tase seen diggante o góor a jigéen bu am doom su ñëwee yi fi xale kan la moo dikka kan mooy jël responsibility of xale lañ nekk di discuss so Haruna mu ngi jógee si social welfare moo ñu doon explainal yi fi Children's Act bi moo xam ne loi boo xam ne ñoo ko taxal si Gambia pour xool yi fi welfare xale yi so man suma argument moo nekkoon since buñ dooree conversation bi mooy ne waaw am nañ the Children's Act waaye si suñ main loi Gambia mooy constitution bi lu mu wax si wàllum jigéen si fi wàllum sëy si fi wàllum xale su bokkee si sëy bu tas o ñoom yooyu su décision waree am yi fi xale boobu usually dañ ko dee wax dañ dee ne ñu yóbbu ko si kaadi bi comme nuñ dee ooyee kaadi court bi te lu bari su jigéen yi seen case yi su demee si kaadi bi def dee rule in favor of góor bi so in most cases luñ dee gis mooy xale yi dañ leen di jël jox leen papa bi so leenali suñ aada ñun comme Fatou mu ngi ko doon wax bu yàggu ñun yëpp mun ngaa remember bi nga nekkee xale sax dañ laa ne doom bu góor si papaam la su amee juróom ñaari at rek papaam def ko wax loolu tradition la boo xam ne dañ ko dafa bokk si suñ société bi ba am na jigéen yoo xam ne sax duñ ko challenge because ñoom tam nun lañ leen raise loolu lañ musa dégga dañoo dégga ne su ma amee doom bu góor moom su amee 7 years papa bi moo ko jël ba pare dañ war a remember tamit when we talking about court ak yi there is cost involved jigéen yu bari yoo xam ne amuñ doole bi ñun xam nañ ne in the Gambia fii suñu xool financial situation jigéen yu bari nekkuñ di liggéey si formal sector bi foo xam ne dañ am salary ñu leen a fay ñoo xam ne dañoo dem di daan seen doole di jaay di lii soo amee jëkkër boo xam ne mooy liggéey si office bi moom lañ gis moo am reputation moo nekk di liggéey moo jànga yooyu la gaay di consider ñu rule in favor of góor bi instead of jigéen bi su buggee challenge loolu sax yaa ngi dem court yes dañ dee mun a lawyer free government bi provider la lawyer waaye from experience tamit ñu bari liñ dee wax dañ dee end up with lawyer yoo xam ne they are not committed si seen cases yi whereas jëkkër bi in some cases jëkkër bi mu ngi financially stronger dina afford pour jël a private lawyer koo xam ne moo gën a mun a argue case am so these are all barriers yoo xam ne jigéen yi dañ ko dee face and one important thing lu Fatou wax bu yàggul mooy the fact that ne Haruna tam wax na ko divorce cases dañ ko dee refer si kaadi bi and suñoo jël decision around divorce boobu foofu lañ dee jël decision around naka ngeen a share we property naka ngeen a share we children you involve so in most cases yooyu duñ dee dem si Children's Act bi because su court bi decide si kaadi court bi decide ba pare moom lu ma nekkoon di emphasize al Haruna mooy ne kaadi court bi moo dee overpower suñu ruulee doo mun a jëlaat case bi constitution ni Gambia bi 97 constitution bi dooleelu jigéeni Gambian pour kaadi bi su ruulee ba pare nga dem si Supreme Court bi or Children's Court bi nga challenge kaadi bi lu mu war amuñ doole boobu si 97 constitution bi draft constitution bu ñu reject nii boobu mu ngi amoon provision boo xam ne jigéen bi soo demee si kaadi bi ñu ruulal la kaadi bi ne la ne sa doom yi dañ leen a jox sa ex jëkkër am nga doole bi pour dem si Supreme Court bi challenge ruuli kaadi bi waaye right now in the current situation we don't have amuñ doole boobu ba pare moom Haruna mu ngi doon wax jox na man sax jàng naa fi lu bari yi fi Children's Act bi ak yi fi ne support bi ak nu ñoo doole lay jigéen yi when it comes to child custody man si suma bopp I wasn't aware of these so si community engagement yu ma dee def yëpp dugga si biir dëkk bi amul dem foo xam ne jigéen ñëwu toog jooy ba ñun yëpp ñu jooy di wax yi fi doomam ne dafa ñàkk doomam ñeena yi dangaa gis ne sa fekk 7 years sa xale bi amul ko ñu nangu ko seen loxo ba pare li violation bi loolu violence against women la because yaa ngee jël jigéen bi right am yaa ngi koo violate man gis naa fi jigéen yoo xam ne ñu ngi independent ñu ngi liggéey ñoo nekk in a better financial position than góor bi ñoo gën a mun a look after doom bi like the child's best interest is living with the mom. Yes, there are certain instances where xale bi fekk si papaam moo gën environment di papaam while in most cases the child is best with their mother. Why luñ dee gis even in a case where court bi gis na evidence boobu yëpp especially si cas di court bi dañ dee jël xale yooyu ekkati leen jox leen papa bi. Si jigéen yoo xam ne they are capable of looking after their children, but that's because nu ma argue mooy ne ñun si suñ kaadi bi lu bari ñu fa dee toog def dee nekk góor yi la mais bi benn jigéen nga faa fekk o ñaari jigéen waaye ñoo xam ne xam nañ suñ société bi nu mel benn jigéen su toogee ak seven góor yi seen décision mooy dem. So loolu moo nekk de man doon also read something démba bu ma doon do a bit of research ñu ngeen ne according to tradition cultures in Islam jigéen su jigéen demee sëyam tas mu amoon doom especially doom bu góor su sëyam tasee mu sëyaat according to Islamic traditions the woman loses all rights to the child. Papa bi
that's right. Yeah, I heard it too.
What is that saying? Lolu lan la nekk di wax jigéen ñi but tamit Haruna make na a mention ne suñoo seet xale bi kuy best interest am dañoo xool ndax yaay bi mu ngi nekk yaay bu baax in society mooy jigéen bu sëy jigéen bu toog si kër jigéen bu def nii bu def na le so jigéen bi su samee sëy tamit ngeneen ne su sëyee tamit loolu tax na mu lose rights am yëpp yi ngeen bugg a jigéen boo xam ne dafa conform si norms yi so there is a no-win situation so demee si cadre bi ñu ne sëyuloo góor bi mun naa aaju ne depuis ma divorce ak moom mu ngi nii sëyut mu ngi wër mu ngi def ni suma doom bi bëgguma mu jigéen bu sëyut rees ko cadre bi mun naa juus loolu as mu tent jigéen bi ne nekkul jigéen bu baax ñu jox ko góor bi waaye tamit su dee jigéen bi sëy na suñ diina bi mu ngi laa wax ne not maybe du diina bi tradition di diina bi mu ngi laa wax ne jigéen boobu because
it's the interpretation bila interpretation of the Sharia law bila and there are certain things we just have to say the way they are. It's not favorable to women. Sharia law be ninko interpretes most of them are not favorable. Why manlima wa moine kadi courts be it's not the best. So they made through the kadi courts it wouldn't work. You know, it wouldn't be. They would always, like you said, with all the situation like patriarchal system bufaneka operator Sharia law when they use your favor with women is discriminatory. Why ndax jigéen mun na fu nekk nii from this conversation pour ñu understand they can go through the children's court ñu boycott kadi court be altogether su fekkee ne and that's going to be tricky, isn't it? Because if there is a marriage and then the custody element cannot be excluded from the divorce process, be more like a complication be. I don't know for your friends what you want to add.
That is specifically Fadu. What was concluded right now that when it comes to who a good mother is, one of the characteristics he said is you must marry. In the Children's Act, that is not the case.
Yeah.
That is not the issue.
What we are saying is the Children's Act is very nice. Like the Children's Act it's equal. Both men and women there are equal.
Yes.
But then when you divorce, you have to go through the Kadi court. So you cannot exclude the child custody element of that divorce and take that to, correct me if I'm wrong, and take that to the Children's Court. Can you do that? Can the Kadi court just focus on, for example, just the divorce and let the women can now go to the Children's Court and then fight for this child custody? No. Is that possible?
No, it depends on the circumstance. You know, sometimes like when you file a case for divorce at the Kadi court, they will look at it holistically, whether the parties to the case have children. So there are instances made, even if the lady didn't apply for cases of, because most of those cases at the Kadi court, most of them, the divorces that were not, agreed to outside are the ones that end up at the Kadi court, for the Kadi court to decide the divorce cases. So in most instances, they will have to look at it holistically. But what I'm saying here is sometimes, yes, I understand. Even the process of going through the Kadi court itself, the duration before they conclude on the matter, it takes so much time. And then before that time, you may end up even getting frustrated, and then you will end up just living, going and coming. Like Fatu said, most women are not working, they cannot, shoulder the burden of, paying the cost of all what is involved in the Kadi code, going and coming and stuff like that. So all those things also contribute. Most of these women lost in cases or like that. But that should be the advocacy point of view now. How do we ensure that when it comes to issues of custody, we allow the children's court to have jurisdiction entirely, and then on issues of divorce, then that will help us, because the Kadi court don't have social workers there. The children's court have.
Yeah.
Sometimes the children's court also cannot know that one of the parents is the best, unless and until a social worker undertake a social inquiry to get and visit the homes and have an interview with both parties to the case. Therein, you will know that obviously this other party is far better off in terms of all indicators to take care of the child than the other party. And in some cases also, you have to go further to that by interviewing the child involved. I don't think the Kadi court does invite children to sound their opinion as to who among the parties they choose to go and stay. But the children's court does that. I remember a case of where a child chooses to stay with the mother, and that was a boy child, because the father is a cannabis smoker. And the child feared that if he continues to stay with the father, there are high chances that he will end up being a cannabis smoker. And then he ended up choosing and going to stay with the mom. And the court, validated that, opinion of the child. Yeah, but I also don't think that the Kadi court will just rely only on the basis that if it is a male child, he has to go and stay with the father. How about if the father is...
That's the thing that we cannot measure, because for us, we don't know how the Kadi court utilizes the best interest principle. How do they do it? For them, what is the best interest? Because if the Sharia law says that at 7, before 2, children can stay with their mom when they're breastfeeding, for example, that's the rationale. Because I went and read thoroughly on the Sharia law. And then they said, now when you are 7, and there's a rationale for it, and I'm not here to question that, even though I don't agree with it. I'm a Muslim, but I don't agree with it, okay? But what I'm saying is that what is happening right now is that we have a system which is good. The children's court is very good, and it follows the Child's Act. And it's good for women who probably are not Muslims, they're not Muslims, they don't have to go through the Kadi court, or their divorce is amicable. For example, the husband and wife, their divorce is amicable. Then I go to the children's court and apply for custody for my child. As a woman, we can do that. I think that needs to be clear, that all hope is not lost. This is possible. And there are social workers to help. But the situation gets complicated when you are a married woman and your divorce case have to go through the Kadi court, and you have children. That's where the discrimination begins, isn't it?
Yeah.
But also,
that's quite true. I believe in some instances, what if the particular father in question is an alcoholic? It might not be in the interest of even Islam for you to end up taking that particular child and giving it to the father.
That's right.
Haruna, can I come in, please? You yourself have said that the Kadi doesn't investigate. They do not send people to check these families out. For them, those are informations that they're not going to verify, because they don't have social work. What
I say is that they don't have social workers. They may investigate. What I'm saying is they don't have social workers. Social workers are trained, experts in the area of child protection. They may investigate in their own way to get to the facts that they want to get. But what I can vividly tell you or confidently tell you is that they don't have social workers who work with them like did the children's court. So maybe that one, I just want to clear that,
Harun, okay, fine, thank you. What I want to point out is that, just before I go to that, Fatu, one of the things is men in this country know it's the Kadi court that favors them. So they don't go through the order route. They go straight to the card because it is what favors them. Let's start with that. But secondly, also, as I'm going to buttress again on that issue, is the fact that the card, what's the word? For them, their principles, their way of thinking is that there is a boy child involved. According to our rulings, yes, there are other things that we can look at. But the main thing is, it's a male child. He is 7. Our ruling is that he should be with the father. Already, that is their way of thinking. So for a lot of the time, they do not consider other factors. And as I said, in a lot of cases, families, or either the man or the woman, already knows that this culture, this norm, as well as this belief that that's what Islam says, people don't challenge that. And that is the issue. You will see a man who a woman would ask for a divorce and a man refused because they think that, they know that if you have a child and you go to the Qadi, exactly what will happen. You have children involved. Men are using all that. And the one thing that I want to stress on, I have met several women who are in abusive relationships, who are scared to leave their relationships because of the worry of losing their children. If you give a woman the option to lose their children to stay in an abusive marriage, in most cases, they will choose to stay in an abusive marriage just so that they don't lose their children. And these are the challenges. But the main issue here is that the fact that the issues of women, the issues of this personal law, where women don't have the options, women don't have the choice to decide whether they can go to the Sharia, through the Sharia law or through the other available. That is the problem that we have.
I agree with you entirely. The only thing that I didn't agree with you is that you may use some men. I know there are some men who are really very, very, they are very caring, and then they all.
Don't guide the patriarchy. Don't sit here and try to be protective of the patriarchy. I know it is in your interest. You are a man, and that is exactly what you are doing right now. You are being protective of those rights that you are a man. You are a guardian man. So those are your advantages. Unfortunately, those are disadvantages for me and so many other like 51% of this country. 51% of this country.
No,
that is the challenge that we are facing.
I'm not speaking from that point of view. Trust me, I have been a strong advocate for women's rights, and until today, I stand and fight for the rights of so many women. Honestly speaking, when it comes to injustice, I don't side with that. That is not my take. Actually, I'm just trying to, provide and say maybe at least, there are some good men or else who are also trying to be, very caring.
Okay, let's bring it back on. Let's bring it back on to what I want us to look at now is it looks like there are good things, there are good systems in place in the Gambia. It's just that we need to be aware of it. But equally, there are really discriminatory laws. And we were right. For me, the Constitution, the reason why I was fighting and advocating for that Constitution to be passed is the fact that women will have the opportunity to against the Qadi rulings, because if that's the final court, and what Haruna is telling us right now is different, but if that's the final court and I can't do anything, then some of us would stay in abusive relationships, or and wouldn't even be bothered. But what I want us to look at, Haruna, is the best interest principle. This best interest, we always say the best interest of the child. What is the best interest of the child? When you do an assessment as a social worker, what are some of the things that you look at? Because Fatu mentioned something really important, which is, when we look at a mother, for example, we are looking at whether they are married. As a society, I'm not saying from a social worker's point of view, but as a society, we are judging whether this woman is married. How does this woman compose herself? Is she employed? All of those things. Does she have a place to live? So when you look at the child's best interest, what are some of the aspects you consider as a social worker? Are you here, Aruna? Are you here?
If you look at the Children's Act,
Mm-hmm.
I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear me loud and clear now.
Yes,
okay.
I can.
What
now,
I did
yes.
say, if you look at the Children's Act 2005, amended in 2016, Section 3 specifically spoke about the issues of best interest of the child. That is, in any situation, whether it is a school, a parent, or a court, in determining a case of a child, the best interest principle shall be the primary consideration. And they should ensure that they put into consideration the age, the sex, and then the mental capacity of that particular child. So for us social workers, when you are conducting a home study report, like you said, what the society may term as the characteristics of a good mother is, one of it is you must marry and live with your family.
I think we're losing Aruna.
That may not be of a priority as far as
can you go
what
back
matters
a
is
second?
rooms to
Can you
issues.
go back a little bit, Aruna?
Yeah, when it comes to issues of okay, what I did say is determining the best interest principle. The age of the child matters. The sex, that is either the child is a boy or a girl, it also matters. And again, the attitude, the mental capacity of that particular child also matters a lot.
Why does boy or girl matter? Why?
No, but what I'm saying, no, you know, remember we have cases of incest.
Right.
That we have had cases where fathers impregnate their daughters.
Right. Okay.
So if you conduct a home study and you realize that the father is living in a room and a parlor, and there is only one bed, and the father wants the girl child, who is around 15 years, to come and be spending the night there. You know, obviously that, you know, that practically that is something that one does not take. So this is why the age of a particular child in determining a particular case, but not actually to say, okay, because, you know, it's a boy, the boy has to go and stuff like that. You have to put all those things into consideration, because the age also goes with the needs that a particular child, like if a girl child, best for the mother to be there in order to guide her. So this is why it matters a lot when it comes to the living environment. The living environment also matters. There are some environments that are so tempting that if you allow children to go to that community, they may end up being, you know, street children, or end up, you know, getting into drugs or criminal, juvenile delinquencies and other related matters. So all those issues, you know, they look around them. Which kind of schools are available around that environment? Who pays for the school of that particular child? You know, and then again, you also have to interview the child to sound her opinion or his opinion based on the age of that particular child. So there are a lot of factors involved in determining the best interest principle, but it's not just one rule fit all.
Right.
Different circumstances.
Yeah, it depends on the circumstance.
In a particular case.
Fatu,
Yeah, so,
Fatu, you have, thank you, Aruna.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Fatu, do you have anything to add?
Yes. For me, I'm just going to bring again. So if we are looking the best interest of the child, and career is the same thing they will consider, is the age. It's not about going to see, for age, if it's 7, it's a boy, they tick the box, his father. The sex, you know, is a boy, is the father. So those are, when we look at the best interest, for the Sharia, we look at sex, maybe that's not what, within the Gambia, within the context. And let's remember that in our code, it is also influenced by our norms and societal attitudes and beliefs. It's the men who the patriarchal system favors, who sit in these courts. So they go to these courts with that mentality already. So for them, if they're thinking about age, if it's a boy, 7 years la am. Góor la am na 7.
Yeah.
So you understand. So this principle of the best interest of the child, they just look at it from that lens.
Yeah.
Instead of, maybe in the life of the we have seen cases fake any contact ak papa bi whatsoever for years, 7 or above mu ne rightam la mu dem si kaadi bi jokko right bi pour mu jël xale bi fekk xamul xale bi spend time ak xale bi, they just take that child off that mother or family bu mu xam ñu jokko papa bi. Is that the best interest of that child? So within that context, they just have this one lens, and that is what needs to change. Mansuma argument fee moine. What needs to change is that women have to have the choice whether they want to access the CADI code or the systems that are available to them. Women need to have that option. So duñ mëna jël the overall option, because fu mu nekk nii góor yi ñoo am overpower ban option la ñoo jël. If I was a man, it's a man's world. I would choose what I think is going to favor me. And as I said, a lot of the men in this country know that when it comes to child custody, what favors them is to go through the CADI, and they will drag their wives or ex-wives through the CADI because those more than favor. The children's courts, women are not getting this information. And like Harm said, the advocacy, I think we should stress on separating the two. Personal law be more than women the options well.
Yeah, especially Fatima, especially soon created this children's court, because it's contradictory. Don't want to create a children's court, to rule on children's matters. Before them yogo divorce be, see CADI court be, children are involved. But we know that's contradictory, because again, we don't want to support, because children's court be definitely the way it is designed. Lolo no would empower women. You have a social worker to work with. So I made social worker come Aaron, he understands issues. Muna amu guide la in such a way that you would have justice or dinga amsadom. Why is if everything is going through the CADI court, you also divorce, we don't want to separate the custody aspect for and even FISA, then they am solicitor finish. You can I'm solicitor for divorce. I'm a solicitor for child contact arrangement. That they're two separate. So why it can also be separated. So options, I feel that maybe that's where the advocacy, as you rightly said, that's where we should be focusing on. Legi, move on. I don't know whether you want to add something, but I do want to move on to for us to talk about example cases, like cases, for example, Fatu you've seen it, like maybe without mentioning names to protect the clients. Speaking, we have example, like from Aruna's point of view, it will be successful examples where the children's court acted in the best interest of the child, before you just the right person, the right parent. If you can give us an example, because sometimes when we speak and give examples, that they make things a little bit more real and close, so we're not speaking vaguely. So how can you first in terms of real examples? Okay, I'm not sure whether you speak Wolof anyway. I was just speaking Wolof, but I'm not sure whether you do. Yeah, okay. So we go with Fatu first, and then Fatu sing we need try you def posi all of them as much as possible, yeah.
Well, dafa am ben case model aware of. They don't say mo góor bi ñu am ay doom góor ak jigéen. Góor bi tukki for many years bàyyi ko mu ngi abroad mu bàyyi ko si kër mu dem biñ ko dee dégga jigéen bi moo doon toppatoo doomam mi ñu ngi dem school ñu ngi def everything bu góor bi benn bés dañ toog rek góor bi ñib si ñëw jigéen bi although kër bi si kër yi góor bi la nekka but throughout jigéen bi moo nekk di fay tax mooy def everything in the house. Góor bi yaayam sax mu ko bàyyi woon gannaaw te doon look after yaay bi ba yaay bi gaañu boore bu mu ñibsee mu ñëw mu ne buga tut sëy bi dafa buga divorce dafa buga jigéen bi génna why he wants to keep his children jigéen bi ne du mun a dem so if anybody is leaving yow yaay leave because it may be in your sa name but suma doom yi la maa fi nekkoon ak sa doom yi suñ doom yi di leen look after and stuff the man took her to the Kadi and guess what they asked her to leave the house and give the father the kids a doom bu góor ak bu jigéen ñu ngi fight case boobu ba unfortunately ndeysaan jigéen bi dafa gaañu bu yaagu
ndeysaan
case bi munuta balaa case bi di ñu li jigéen waaye dañ jël doomam yi yëpp jël ko jox ko papa bi te moom moo fa nekkoon di struggle fekk papa bi call sax du ko dee def so you have cases like that yet despite all those circumstances the decided to give xale yi to Kibi, to Papa B. So that's just one example. A very sad.
Léegi ñu génne jigéen bi si kër bi si këri góor bi dañ ko fa génne. Waaw. Ba pare ñu nangu doomam mi tam.
Ba pare nangu doomam mi.
That's very unfair. Very unfair. Based on what? And also based on what?
One thing I want to stress on, li nekkut ne issue yoo xam ne dafa nekk di happen fii si urban area bi rek. In the rural areas, like I said, there isn't any community that I have engaged with that if a child custody come up. It's an issue that jigéeni Gambian yi luñ nekk di joy every day. For them, di nga gis jigéeni Gambian buy joy to. Either mu ngi bugg a génn si sëy ñeme wut a génn because of doomami or exam mu ngi jël doomami amul any access to xale yi. Haruna, you can go on.
Jërëjëf ay dafa daw yaram torop definitely. Yeah, it's so sad. Some of these cases mom anyway mimbi je walem defa nang nga example case killing sodomi alonko a jarta through the children's court and muso nyilla sambaji claiming custody of the child from the father. Case in Tata for children's court file muso loyata keofana loyata case in Tata for almost towards the end court na order diko social worker nyanta tala kiskisiro la ka reporto nyin safe ani recommendation so that court ye wojube pour ka case ni determine. I was fortunate in Tata case social inquiry report la but na kiskisiro immediate and walem ningo fama manke motimi ya lonko la na molem comme doji ko timi ya lonko mote di ningo fantala fanga diala ka tu atuda malem din kambano lende atini di ningo damal bunkono andu wati do aka mol luntangol invite na bunkono suto anu di ningo bukas time soto pour custody baraka biringa kiskisiro ka nindi ningo si tafana kachata ngala opinion fana nyininka amin fonye walenko ate de tonya fama kanule bare ala situation be nyamen ate lafila pro ay tra afama bulu ate be lafila le pro ni court sembo diala ay bo afama ya ay tra kasi abama nyolia katu je ay opportunities of school anim fana na sola ta study at any time asa kenole anun court na tawo situation be jube they ended up ruling the case in favor of the lady and winata keonyim fanan sas ko karo kari anyanta wili fula jola mi alonko wala ndingo nyin la child support anu fana atelebe continue la fanan ka dingo la school fees jo anin kudol mi alonko sola ta la fanan so inata access di kewala comme na lafita asita dingo nyi besteri ndame ka jube bare dingo nyi wote nano la keoya because nana taji asike tumando bato ani daji ko be fundila mi yalon ko amanke daji ka kende example leti mi yalon ko case andu muso nyinne coordinator muso case nyindi muso dindi mo nyindi muso la samba ko fanan soto tanu muso ning dindi ngo bama na fa ibe man mi yalon ko ni ejube ibuko imalla karango la fam songala
So yeah, more environment the environment assessment okay.
Assessment okay nka be jubele. Isuleti mi yalon ko amanke ko comme ni temu ba mati dron o dingo bale dingo fale automatic soto pour ka case nyinta wonte. It depends on the prevailing circumstance and the environment and the attitude of that particular person who applies for custody of the child.
I'll let two example on what it has shown. Well, come from the beginning, lemdoro. I itandile kadi court la floss momenti. Come ngameng realize well and yinti the kadi court. Most likely 90% I would say on the outcome element. Yeah. But the children's court la opportunity bijele for muso sembentu yandi because we bakaji be for balem for falem because dindungola nyantole jibe and may dindungo aranse ye ruling according to that. So ngamira alani example flow I wole yitande. Hani be purka for manika kangola ning case be caring imu muso ti me along for sorry.
Lafta ka fendo clarify wala children's court amanke ko magistrate malika case ni determine magistrate ni wala chairperson wala nyaton court bare mo fulale ni yalon ko ibe ka sile wala paneli solti
right
do mu musol do mu kelete so ni case nata case ka ba mu ka opinion financial case ni la tamanya. So you have a female as a panel and you have a male as a panelist.
Right.
And most of them are people of responsibility in the society. And they also have to sign the order. So the magistrate don't have the absolute authority to case him finally. Well, in the children's court, if one of the panelists is absent, they cannot sit.
Right.
So it's a panel that discuss on the issue, not a magistrate. Single-handedly doing the case and then deciding the judgment.
I think someone was Fatu. I think you wanted to say something. I'm just trying to call somebody.
Yeah, no, I was just on his last point about having both men and women, a man and a woman. That is all well and good, and we know in Gambia we are very good with ticking boxes. In most cases, that is just a ticking box, Haruna. Sometimes you go there is a man, there is a woman, and they've ticked the gender balance box. But in practice, that doesn't actually translate jigen bobu. In some cases, some of those cases, jigen bofa talks man na ben court. There was a man and a woman. Yes, come ninga explain is panel day. But you could see how the man overpowered jigen bu tok si panel bobu nonu. You can tell that this is only góor bi lum decide moy overpower jigen bu nek si panel bi. We are very good with when it comes to ticking boxes with gender. The fact that there is a man sitting there and a woman sitting there doesn't mean that then you consider woman be welfare woman or what is best for the woman or the best interest of the child. Lolo is a lesson guma janga Gambia. If gender in most times is a ticking box for many people, for many organizations, for many institutions. So Lolo alone man duma ko use as a measure for one we are being gender sensitive just because of a man and woman sitting there. Wow. But
there is a caller.
Okay.
Hold on, panelists, please. There is a caller on the line. You just opportunity, then I will come back to you. Master, go on. Welcome.
What is the topic today? Child custody.
You're already live, my dear. You're asking for the topic. It's child custody, yes.
Everybody wants to keep their child. Those who are responsible.
Okay. Can you hear the caller? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear.
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Are you taking it in terms of the Gambian context, or globally, or within the UK, or
Gambian context? Gambian.
Well, my understanding regarding the child custody in Gambia, you have to look at the cultural factors, which it was influenced by our belief in the religion that is Islam. So you look at it, that's why you have the Sharia court that determines whether the marriage should proceed or not. And some of the conditions of marriage, or divorce. So children's also interests are put into consideration. If you look at Islam itself, the reason why there are certain rules that are laid down is because the intent of the term is the protection of the children from harm, to establish their cultivation and to give them the attention they are entitled to. So if you look at the other side of the aisle, they will try to give it different interpretation. But this is because the way people deal with Sharia started when Prophet Muhammad was governing his people. Some of these things were happening, but he has to use Sharia to be able to protect the kids from any harmful, because the two parents are angry. Because when they separate or divorce, it's usually they are not in good terms to each other. Right. So in Islam, if you look at it, children are not permitted to be left alone, abandoned or neglected when the mother or father are separated or divorced, either by their death or through. So when a couple is separated, so the primary carer is held accountable and obligated to give the children their rights. So the right, according to is in Islam, so that they are not neglected and left wasted away. So they are teach with moral values in a right way, where they will become responsible citizens in the society, but not to be left as a loose cannon, because this is what my child want, I'm going to let my child decide what it is. But eventually that is the complete teaching of the Islam. There are other many narrations that have been reported. I mean, Prophet once clarified that the right of custody and care over the children. This is an evidence of the completeness of the amazing religion, because it gives the children a sense that is rightly due to them, safeguard them from harm, and then make a distinction from what is right and what is wrong. So if we have a problem in our society, you look at it in economic aspect, because what they're trying to establish is child cannot be left with a parent who is struggling economically to even feed them. Because what will happen if a child is unable to have the decent free course of the meal, the child will go to bed hungry. And the child is going to bed hungry. And at the end of the day, what happens? The child itself will eventually wake up hungry, go to school, and then will unable to concentrate. And that will affect the child education and development, and then the impact on his own mentality. Right. So the Sharia court in the Gambia, let me just give you one scenario. They do go and then find out, when, for example, two parents divorce or separated, they look at the level of responsibility of those parents according to the Islamic value. One, they will look at it, the economic circumstances. If the man is working and the child is a minor, the man is obliged to, is asked to take a certain portion of his wealth and then be supporting the woman for the upbringing of that child. So the woman will continue to nurture that child with the support of a man. Now, if the man is not working or is struggling economically to try to support the family, so normally consensus come into being, because we don't live in a society where a government gives you handouts because you are a single parent or stuff. So you have to battle everything on your own, unfortunately. This is what is happening in Gambia. But if a situation like that, so what can the court try to establish? Now, how can the child welfare be better? The man, you're working, portion of your salary, this is what you have, this is your level of responsibility. And now they will take a certain percentage and say, because you divorce with Fatu, then he has to give, let's say, 20% of what you earn in a month to your kids with Fatu. So these are all there. They do their finding. Is the man responsible? Again, is a man an alcoholic? Or is a man having a very bad character that is morally compromising? If they happen to find all those things in a man, then it's highly likely that they're not going to rule in your favor. Right. Now, if
have you seen, Master, any case in the Gambia through the Kadi court where a man is denied custody for a child?
That's what I'm trying to emphasize to you. The only way, I have never seen where a man is denied custody. Because what happened is you have to present the circumstantial evidence to indicate that you can best represent the interest of a child. And then,
but it cannot be at all cases, you know, in all circumstances, men always prove to be able to provide, you know, for the child. It cannot always be right. It cannot always be on their side. You know.
I think what we need to understand, there is this issue here. Women have right to custody of their children than men. In principle, custody belongs to them because they are more compassionate and more kind, and then they know better how to raise small children. And they are more patient in dealing with difficulties involved. The mother has more right to custody of her child, whether it is a boy or a girl, so long as he does not remarry. And then, so long as he met the condition of the custody, that he's been a good character, economically meeting all the obligations, and then you see back and forward. But
I'm trying as much as possible not to be angry here because I don't understand the idea of the woman remarrying. You know, when you remarry, then you lose custody.
Okay, I'll try to explain to you. You know, when a woman is married in our setting, you give attention to your husband and your husband needs.
Yeah.
You cook, you clothe, you run, and then you do all sorts of errands. A lot is a burden on the woman.
Right.
That also comes with the responsibilities of looking after those kids. And now what happened? If you look at Surah Al-Nisa, it said men are responsible for women.
Clear that part, because if you want to be looking after your husband, right? I'm going to allow you, Fatih, to come, but if you're going to be looking after your husband, you would also be looking after your children, just in case that if you have kids with that husband, you will look after those kids. So why can you not look after the other kid that you bring in? It doesn't make sense to me.
No, okay, I know you are theoretically looking at it, but in a practical aspect, you know, the man that marries you went and then stay with him in his home, and then you look at the principle of marriage.
Right.
Are you going to be able to overcome the challenges of the principle of marriage? Satisfy quite a lot about what your husband is demanding in relation to how you can give a deserving attention to your kids.
Okay, hold on to that thought. Just pause, press the pause button, because I think F. Balde wants to explode in a moment. So let's allow her to speak and then you come up again.
All right.
Fatih, go on. Just hold on, Master. Don't go. Just stay there, please.
Master, thank you for your contribution. Yeah. Thank you. I have 2 points just to add for now. One is, so if for instance, I'm that woman, I am divorced, I am remarried. Firstly, if I was still married to the father, I would still be married and looking after the children. Secondly, what makes men believe that if I give you my child, but you are a man, are you going to be at home looking after those children? You're not going to be looking, even so if you remarry and your wife have other children, will your wife be looking after my children as well, better than I would as a mother of my own children? That doesn't even, that's not logical. That doesn't even make sense. Because if my ex-husband is remarried and has a child, has another wife, most likely they have other children. So the norms, the gender roles are still going to be the same. Just like if I was still married to the father of those children, I would still be taking care of my children and my husband, regardless. So that argument is not even relevant here. And I don't think any child should be taken from their mother based on those arguments.
Thank you.
For now.
Thank you, Fatih. Yeah, thank you. Master, carry on.
Yeah. Okay, I heard what Fatu is saying. You know, Fatu, like I said, you, me, and Fatu Baji, we are from the same setting, culturally and religiously. And religion is a dogma, take it or leave it. Whether you and I agree with what religion said is subjected to our understanding of it. But the issue is, this child custody stuff started the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the way Sharia rule it is 100% correct. You know, if you go to marry to your husband.
What is the Sharia ruling? Tell us that, because it's not, we know one line that when a child before 7, you are allowed to stay with mom. Maybe up to 2, you're allowed to stay with mom. For a boy, once you reach 7, you stay with the dad. The custody is given to dad. So is that all about the Sharia, or is there more? Can you tell us?
Now, my question is, why the boy should be 7 and given to dad, not to continue staying with the mom?
They said, the reading that I read, and I listened to Mufti Mink because he explained it. He said because the fathers, normally when you're going to look for a wife, for example, your dad helps you find a wife. Your dad actually have to tie the knots, basically. They don't come to the woman, they come to the dad. That doesn't happen anymore anyway. You know, so that's the rationale that he explained, you know. So I don't know what your explanation is.
I think what we need to understand, if you look at Surah Al-Nisa, that surah talks exclusively more about this kind of issues, particularly women. It said men are in charge of women. Yeah. You understand? Men use their wealth to marry women and then put them in their custody. That's what Allah says. That is in the Quran.
Yeah.
Whether people believe in it or they accept it is up to them. What the Quran says, I know people have a logical thinking to say, oh, this doesn't make sense. But there's no way anybody can challenge Allah. There's no way anybody can challenge Quran.
Absolutely. So, but the Sharia is the Sharia from the Quran. The Sharia, you know, I don't want this conversation to be about Sharia, but really, the Sharia is a law, and where is that coming from? And for me, I think it's the interpretation and the condition right now, you know, should be considered. That's what I think, because something can be relevant decades ago or centuries ago, and it's not relevant today. So before, maybe men were looking after their wives. Maybe everything was on, you know, on the man to look after. But in this modern day and age, women are fending for themselves. Women are looking after themselves. It's like, you know, I don't want to use the term, but it's 50-50. You give, I give. So why women are not relying 100% on their husbands?
Let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you one thing. Can you hear me? You know, you were talking about ancient days. What is relevant before might not be relevant today.
Yeah.
You and I are prone to changing lifestyle. But I'll tell you one thing. Islam never changed. People change their behaviors in Islam or towards Islam.
Yeah.
But that's why the Quran, you have never seen anybody modify Quran. Chapter B is according to Matthew, like the way Bible is. No. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Quran, nobody can manipulate with it. What is there, 1400 years ago, in the Quran is the same thing. You have to follow the same.
Yeah.
That's why it says Quran is a dogma.
I think Aruna's battery is running out, and he wants to comment before he goes. So Aruna, let me just allow Aruna to go. Master, is that all for you today? Because I think
I just want to come propose. You know, you were talking about that 7. When the boy is 7, you know, if you look at the nature of man, we are saying that okay, there has to be equality and stuff. But in Islam favor more women than men. And if you look at us, and then men have control over women. Even the day of Yom Al-Qiyamah, they are going to ask the man, which is the head of the house, how did you run your house? Do you understand? And they return all those things from a woman, the kids, everything. Their dues and their responsibility is on your head. What did you advise them? What did you make them to do? Did you start your responsibilities?
But we are talking about a divorce now. They are not husband and wife. Now they are separated.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's why how the kids should be on the each parent, because children's best interest come into being for us. Do you understand? So Islam look at it. How would you ginger up your kids? That will become a devoted Muslims, and then they will not become a loose cannon. They will have a good moral character, and then who is in a better position to do that? The women are still following challenges, and now those challenges they're looking at.
Okay, thank you, Master. I have to cut you short here. Thank you very much, because you spiked. Thank you very much for your contribution, because you've actually stirred a debate, and I think people are getting warm up to contribute. So thank you. That's your perspective, and we respect it. It's you know, it's the way we understand things. Okay, thank you. I think Aruna wanted to go. Aruna, do you want to comment before I let Fatima, because I have another call here. Aruna, are you here? Aruna? Yeah, you have a low battery, and I think you wanted, did you want it to go, or we wanted to comment? I saw a comment in the box. We can't hear.
The brother who called, and just to thank him for joining us, and then I think I'm experiencing a low battery. I just want to thank you for the initiative and inviting me to join this conversation, and equally also thank Fatu Balde. Is very resourceful. I can see that he's very passionate to issues of women, especially when it comes to meeting you, maybe also a trainer on issues of gender-based violence. Don't see me as being the woman also. No, that will not happen. Yeah, thank you very much, Sister Fatu, and your colleague Fatu Balde.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you here.
Thank you, Aruna. We'll have a conversation afterwards. I think your contribution has been really helpful and useful. You've given information here that we didn't know about, and I think more advocacy from your side, from the social welfare side, needs to happen. You know, people need to know about the children's courts, the Children's Act, say it in local languages, so that women are empowered with the knowledge and they know where to access help. Yeah, sure. I think that's important. And thanks for your time, and my regards to the madam.
Thank you.
All right, Fatu, before you come, there is a caller on the line. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Waa ñëwal egsi na nga def. Waaleykum salaam.
Torop.
Jërëjëf.
Because I believe I'm going to cut it really short. While the mabuga wa rek moy ne. Go to the grassroots so people get sort out. So you say the history of religion. Go to your land and go for explain. They say no land and
yeah.
So it wasn't their job to interpret or to learn about anything. And this is why empowering women is very important in issues like this. So young don't interpret. So the way we can solve this issue, because we have most of the so she's got no information of what to do. So obviously the ruling will always go pull favor Godby. In most cases.
Yeah.
Understand nga? So lima buga wax rek moy ne gis nga interpréter gis nga ñu ngi wax sharia ñu ngi wax Quran. Quran dafa buga sharia in terms of Quran dafa buga dialogue. It's only where for xamne papa bi yaay bi mënu ñoo tok wax. That's when it goes to the courts. So man limay wax ci jigéen ni Quran bi légui lo ci buga xam you can go and find out. Because men, I know that this is it's not going to go well with a lot of people. Men will interpret it in the way they understand it.
Yeah, that's right.
And most of the time, it's how it favors them because we were not educated, or our parents were not educated to understand.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that we empower the girl child. We need to come into this world knowing that nothing is reachable in the signal. They just we need to educate them. Lead nekk na loo xam ne mu ngi demonstrate in society right now. It affects a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And foo ko yóbbu, including my own parents, dañ laa ne jigéen dina nga war a muñ. Yow waruloo xeex kii góor bi moo war a def lii, you know. And Islam, I am not a scholar in religion.
Yeah.
While Islam always prefers dialogue.
Yeah.
Te góor bu toog yow xam nga ne unless there is concern for safety for the child.
Yeah.
Yow góor bi war ngaa mun a xam ne xale bi ndax suma ki may separatal dina ko mën a look after or not, unless they are not being fair to themselves to the child. And most of the time they only do it to get back to the lady. Because most cases ñoom doon nañoo xam ne xale bi nga seet na ci case yaay bi or not. te loolu la islam bu ko toog leen ngeen wax lan mooy the best for the child. te soo gisee islam mu rule ne góor bi dafa war a dem si papa bi jigéen bi dem si yaay bi. because moom mu ngi wax ne si góor. yow ki la war a njëkk a jàngal àdduna mooy sa papa. te bëggut góor bi lose out bëggut xale bi lose out. loolu tax ñuy dee rule loolu. jigéen tam dañ wax ne jigéen mooy rek yow mi just like what we're saying ne jigéen moo mun a am look after affaire si jigéen. it's the same thing. So what a rule lolu ne jigéen dafa war a nekk si ron yaayam. There is no better person to train a girl child than that or more. It's the same thing loolu tax mu rule pour affaire góor bi. pour affaire xale bu góor bi dem si papa. pour bëggut benn xale lose out in terms of that because ku nekk yaa ngi comme man maa I believe ne suma affaire jigéen maa ko war a mën a gën a mën a xeexal parce que dunda naa ko. Wow. So and this is where ñu bari ñi ko dee get wrong. foog ne rek ne it's just rule rek xale bi dafa war a dem si papaam rek because of all rek that's there are reasons but there's a lot of parts in the Quran yoo xam ne it's not only about the gender. There's other factors that needs to be looked at as well. And this was include I agree with bit of the Why Quran it always comes where dialogue cannot be attained. That's the only time it comes because good real of real. And these are just there as guidelines. Why look again and why and decide what's best for the child. Because sometimes it's just a fight for the they always lose. And it should not be like that. It was more why both sides need to put there was fair enough, they need to put whatever that's going between them aside. Now it's not about them anymore.
Yeah.
And soon the fellow carry do am second yon, do am sinyom yon. Because of soon agree and do what's best for the child and you fight in your lundote. And I guess they will make the right decision.
Yeah.
Because when we put our emotions, that's when we don't make the right decisions.
Yeah. I agree.
So Lola wanna contribute. Program I cannot say the funny at a very good time because there's a lot of families that are affected by these issues these days, both in Gambia and in Europe.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Always programs like this, then cover the end. Because most of the time, how many funding what are them? Man, how much in Gambia then they have social workers who you can go for advice and stuff like that. And this is where the sensitization and advocacy needs to come.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate the program. It's really interesting. My intention is just to contribute a little quota basically.
Yeah. They work a lot of that. You work na filo. I'm solo. Well, communication. You talked about communication. And the fact that, so this is a conflict beside them at HOB because they don't let go. When they let go, you said go for personal issues like they in the but they overshadow interest halebi. So lolo mo nek problem. So Jeff Sakado rafet na torop appreciate nenko. Jeff, all right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
It was interesting, wasn't it? It was really useful. Legi Fatu, Maser lan nga buga Daniel because I think I said up to 4 o'clock and it's 4 p.m.
Wow.
It's 4. Because there are other people calling.
No,
so wow, Dema.
No, for me, Luma, from experience, personal experience from other women, Luma they find there isn't any woman bo hamne bugut domam enjoy the advantage of having both parents. Should they say any jigen, what you will have, the choice is up to you. Purunga resa domi, accent papa. If you cannot do it as married couple, you should be able to do it sharedly, like and share custody. Halebi enjoy both times you can negotiate like previous scholar it's communication. So then mune takes and personal differences aside children ahead. But unfortunately in a lot of our society, because a lot of the men, the culture, the society, these rulings favor them. When things are bitter, they take advantage of the things that favor them, because do they favor jikini? And unfortunately, lolu mo neka the reality on the ground, you know, and it is a sad reality, and it's something that as a society, as the caller has said, these are conversations that we need to have, and we need to have honest conversations about this issue. Well,
thank you, Patrick. Thank you. Your Vitamit's contribution is very good. I think this was a really healthy conversation / debate, and it was very informative for me myself, actually. So Lola, for me, what are these things? Because we see it trending on social media. We see lives are actually being affected emotionally, send well-being. It's being impacted greatly. And I think, yeah, as you said, we would continue the conversation. Pick up from this standpoint, we raise awareness, not that we are fighting because we're feminists, we're trying to fight. That there's a flaw in the system, and we know that we're aware there is a flaw. And Fini, the people that are, or the most group that are being affected is the children. This is all about custody. So welfare, if we're saying that the welfare of the children should be considered, then definitely it should be considered. We should put all personal grievances aside, because you couldn't sort it out when you were married. I don't think you would be able to have an agreement, you know, you will not agree, because probably that's why you break up in the first place. So, but what you do is you bring the interest of the child. Now it's not about what you think, it's about what is best for this child. And really, I hope that the officials are also listening, because in as much as we can do this conversation, so the constitution is not talking to the customary law, is contradictory. So, you know, you're talking about personal law, you're talking about Sharia, and you're talking about the Children's Court, the Children's Act. All of those different elements should be talking together, and they should be gelling and making sure that they're working at the best interest. You cannot deal with a divorce in a Kadi court and then, you know, talk about child custody in a Kadi court, and then you've already set up a children's court. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't add up. So just to say that the children's court is available, and if you want to access it, you go through the social welfare. So you need to go through social welfare, and I think it's free in the Gambia. You don't need to pay anything. So if you're having a custody case right now and you need advice or something, you can go through the social welfare, and then they will talk to you and take you through the process. You know, for those whose divorce are amicable, they're divorced and it's all amicable, mun them through the children's court, parce que bobu nonu is likely to more than digena arrange than so Kadi court. So I think for me, that's how I want to close this. There's still so much to talk about. Why, as always, don't want to exhaust areas in why another opportunity to come out here, we would do, and then we will look at different aspects, because you do a little bit into the emotional side of things and how women can get support. So I will try every other week now to talk about different things. So thank you very much, and thank you to the wonderful viewers as well. I've seen all the comments. I didn't have time to read them, but I'll go through them one by one. We appreciate your time. So have a good evening, Fatu, and thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Fatu.
Thank you. Bye-bye.